TV and streaming. Netflix is being very tight-lipped about their new TV show that is an English language adaptation of another very popular TV show. The Simpsons are taking over the NFL, and update finally on Fallout Season 2 over on Prime. Hello, nerds! This is the weekly TV news show. Not like the evening news with Tom Brokaw. No, nothing like that. This has more to do with TV shows, nerdy-oriented TV shows, as well as episodic content that you will find on streaming platforms. If this is your kind of thing, then you can check out the full episode that I like to call The Week in Nerddom, that covers all spectrum of pop culture and just generally nerdy things over on the main channel. You can find it linked down in the description or at the end of this video. All of that being said, let's talk about TV shows and nerdy stuff like that. Okay, follow-ups and corrections here in the TV streaming section. So we talked last week, I kind of blurred out a section of the bit, but we talked last week about the Tim Pool situation, and literally the day I was editing was the next episode for Tim Pool, and lo and behold, as I drop my notes, lo and behold, the Tim Pool IRL did not go the way of the buffalo. It is still around. It is still being conducted in basically the same manner. However, there have been a number of changes behind the scenes as far as the Tim Pool company is concerned. The biggest of which I feel like is the dissolution, it would seem, of his Scanner News website and everyone involved in that. It's, oh man, so there's so much to infer here, and anyone who's saying that they know who isn't Tim Pool or one of his former employees is definitely trying to sell you a bill of goods. But the inferences, I would be very surprised if they were wrong at this point. The long and the short of it is, Scanner News, the website still exists, scnr.com, I believe, still exists, but it's been a number of weeks since anything was written for that site. Tim has taken to promoting timcastirl.com or timcast.com or whatever his website is that isn't Scanner News on the show anymore. So it seems that they're shifting focus back over to the main Timcast website, which again implies that he got rid of his entire Scanner News staff, which was probably a good chunk of those 30 people he said were working for him. And it seems just so incredibly misguided. I stand by everything else I did leave in the last episode. It seems like it boils down to Tim Pool being bad at managing people, being bad at running a company. He needs to install a chief operations officer, I mean, and have that person be in charge of making sure everything behind the scenes happens so that Tim can continue to be the CEO, the chief executive officer, and also the chief talent as well. Oh man, there is so much that feels like a 13-year-old pitching a fit when you look at what has happened over the course of the last week with Timcast IRL. The caliber of guest has gone down a bit, maybe not as much as I was anticipating he was going to be scaling things down, but I think it's more of he doesn't have a proper booking agent kind of situation, more so than just him scaling things back necessarily. So I don't know, it's an interesting situation. I don't know that we're going to talk about it necessarily directly on the show again unless something else happens. Oh, also of note, we have the word that Luke Rudkowski and Hannah Claire Bremelo both are going to be heading over to The Quartering in a similar, though not the same, fashion that they were fulfilling over on the Timcast side of things. So very interesting. It's kind of cool to see that Jeremy has the ability to poach former employees from Tim Pool, and Tim Pool doesn't even really feel it would seem. So I don't know, just an interesting situation as far as episodic content is concerned, because it's not really a TV show, but it is, but it isn't, and whatever. All right, so let's move from there. We have other things to talk about in follow-ups. The next one is Good Omens. We finally have some sort of conclusion to the situation behind the scenes over at Good Omens for Amazon Prime. Season 3, if you remember, is what they were working on when the whole thing with Neil Gaiman kind of exploded and all of the accusations and everything. And so Season 3 was put on hold, and since they had filmed a good chunk of it, it seemed like they were going to do something in order to make sure that that time was not wasted for all of the people involved. Well, we now know that what they're going to do is, instead of doing a proper third season, be it, approximately 8 episodes, an hour each, what we're going to get is one episode that is feature in length. So it's going to be approximately 90 minutes of Good Omens over on Amazon Prime, and that is what's going to conclude the series, and we're not going to revisit anything from Neil Gaiman ever again, it would seem. Yeah, it's just such a weird situation with all of that stuff. Moving on, our next one has to do with Tomb Raider. The animated Tomb Raider series, speaking of Netflix, animated Tomb Raider series is getting a second season even before the first season has released. So that's very interesting, but also shows that Netflix is confident in it. And then our final follow-up this week is Fallout. Amazon Prime Fallout is going into principal photography sometime in the month of November. That brings us over into trailers. We got a couple of them. Actually, our first trailer this week was skipped somehow last week. It was in the notes. I just didn't, for whatever reason, see it in the notes. Dune Prophecy. We've finally got a proper trailer for Dune Prophecy. It's not just a little glimpse. It's not a little tease. It is an actual trailer. This is what I'm hoping is going to be the next Game of Thrones, because it's on Max, just like Game of Thrones technically is. I really hope that they do it with the care that it deserves, because the Dune story is one for the ages and just is fantastic. Go check out the trailer. It looks like they're setting up to be something epic, like it should be, though that leaves a lot of room for them to fall, because I'm putting them up on that crazy high pedestal. So the other trailer we got this week is another horror themed trailer, and this is for a show called Earth Abides, and it's going to MGM Plus, which is where From is currently airing. And it's, again, a post-apocalyptic horror themed show, or thriller, I guess, themed show, but it's not zombies. This almost, like, you watch this trailer and it feels like the person, the showrunner, I would assume, the person responsible for getting this together, it seems like they went to the producers and said, all right, so here's my pitch. It's Walking Dead, but no zombies. We're just going to focus on the people without the hazards of the zombies in the background constantly there to keep tensions high. We're just going to keep tensions high through other means that don't have anything to do with dead people and zombies and so on and so forth. So very interesting. I'm definitely intrigued in where this is going, how they can pull this off, if they can pull this off. Again, MGM Plus, it does come out December 1st. So I think, no, we still will have a couple of episodes of From left, so they're going to be running 2 high-profile series over on MGM Plus. I don't know, man. Maybe it's worth your time to look into a MGM Plus subscription if this Earth Abides show turns out to be any good. That is, though, what we have for trailers. Let's get into regular-ass news. Our first piece for regular-ass news has to do with The Simpsons on the NFL. This is a weird one, but we do know that the Simpsons are going to be taking over the NFL broadcast as it is on December 9th, and we're going to be seeing real-time Simpsons interacting with people in the players and coaches and so on and so forth on the field. So yeah, super intrigued. It is going to be, the Simpsons characters are going to be voiced by their original actors, so they're not going to get different actors coming in. I don't fully know what to make of this. It is going to air on ESPN and Disney Plus, and then a couple of other different places that are all owned by Disney, so why is it even important to list them? I don't know. But then the VOD, the video on demand, is going to be live approximately 12 hours after the game ends. So the game, if you're curious, the game is going to be the Bengals and the Cowboys, again, December 9th. They're broadcasting from Springfield, it would seem. And there's also going to be more than just the characters on the field talking to players while they're on the sidelines, etc., etc. But there's going to be original scripted content before the game, at points during the game, and then also after the game. So very intrigued by this. This is possibly a sign of things to come as it pertains to streaming services and like the things that they can offer us is to keep us interested in paying them money for things we don't necessarily watch every day. That is what we got there, though. Our other piece of regular ass news this week has to do with Squid Game over on Netflix. Squid Game is getting apparently an English language adaptation on Netflix. The really noteworthy thing here is that David Fincher, who gave us Sex, Love, and Robots and Fight Club and a number of other amazing movies, and the Mindhunter as well, the series on Netflix, Fincher is being brought in to develop this show, to adapt, I guess would be more appropriate, the Squid Game Korean version into an English version. So Fincher being in charge could make this interesting. If it was anyone of a lower profile than that, I feel like it would be totally not worth a watch, but because the original is there, why do we need an English language one when there's a dub and a sub on the original? I just don't understand that. But then David Fincher, so I'm definitely intrigued. That's what we got, though. Let's get into our suggestion this week for TV streaming. This one is over on Peacock, so if you have a Comcast cable connection, then you probably have a very low-grade Peacock subscription, but that's all you need in order to watch Teacup. That is our suggestion this week. There are strange parallels to the From series that I won't shut up about, but that's not to say that it's the same as From. Not even really kind of the same as From. You just get like these weird like ghosts of the way that they tell the story in From that exists in the way they tell the story here in Teacup. I'm about 5 episodes in myself, and so far so good. It's not as aggressive as From. I don't know if that's a great way to describe it. It's not as gory. It's definitely not as violent. It is not as frightening. It is not as heart attack inducing as From. It's kind of like they took From, which is cranked to 20, not even 11, but all the way up to 20. And then they cranked it back down to about 8 or so. So it's good. I don't want to undersell it. It is absolutely a hell of a lot of fun to be watching, especially considering the time of year that we are in. I hope to get it finished by the time the month ends, and that is your suggestion this week. Go watch Teacup over on Peacock. That brings us to the end of the video, nerds. Thank you very much for joining me for the news. Once again, there is a full and probably much more up-to-date and recent episode of the news, the full-length version, if you will, called The Week in Nerddom over on the main channel, linked down in the description, and probably link popping up somewhere around my face right about now. So click on that, go check that out as well, or if you prefer your news in more truncated pieces, then by all means just stick around here and go check out some of the other stuff we offer on this channel. Thank you very much for joining me. We will see you in the next one. Before we go, always remember, nerds, that if it is generally nerdy, it's probably here.